Councillors, sorry, you're on Medicare. I think we'll just start off the meeting. I declare the meeting open at 7:02. And could we all please stand at the national anthem?
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath the radiant Southern Cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this Commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who've come across the seas, we've boundless plains to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Could remain standing so that we can have the open prayer from the Reverend Dr. Brian Tung on behalf of the St George Hurstville Anglican Church. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Will you join me in prayer? Our gracious God and our Heavenly Father, we praise you for Australia and for our city, Hurstville, especially for the traditional custodians of the land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who had cared for this land for generations, as well as for those who have come after. We pray for healing for our land and its people. As we now learn to live together on these lands, we pray, Father, that you unite us through the bond of peace and righteousness that is found in the knowledge of your Son, the Lord Jesus Christ. We thank you that at Christmas we are reminded that in Jesus Christ you have sent light into a dark world, hope into uncertainty, and comfort into suffering. Thank you that in that first Christmas you have inaugurated your plan to create a new heaven and a new earth. But we remember those at this Christmas who find it difficult and painful. For those who have lost loved ones, those who are grieving and fearful, those who are alone, please come to their aid with healing, relief, and comfort. We praise you for appointing government and all those with authority in our city. We thank you that through their wisdom and labour we live quiet and prosperous lives. Please continue to give that gift of wisdom to this council. Direct and proper all its work to the advancement of your glory, to the safety and welfare of this city, so that peace and happiness, truth and justice may be established among us. And we pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please keep standing so that we could do the acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters and sky in the Georges River area. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live, work and meet on these lands. Please accept that. Thank you. First up, we've got a request from Councillor Christina Jamieson. She would like to be to attend the meeting via audio visual link. Do I have a move by Councillor Natalie Mort, seconded by Councillor Peter Burney. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. The ayes have it. Streaming of council meeting. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being webcast live on council's website. This recording will be made available on council's website. The order of business is as shown in the agenda. Council Code meeting practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of council. We had various disclosures of interest. Councillor Marnie declared a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item CCL 119-22, report of the Georges River Local Traffic Committee, Advisory Committee meeting on the 6th of December 2022, for the reason that he is acquainted with one of the non-voting members of the Local Traffic Committee, as the member was a former work colleague. As this is a non-significant, non-pecuniary disclosure, Council Marnie will remain in the meeting. For the disclosure of interest from Council Ambi Hay-Pahar, it's a pecuniary interest in the item MN098-22, the bipartisan agreement to the introduction of cashless gambling card, for the reason that they are a relation to her employer. As this is a pecuniary disclosure, Councillor Ambi Hay-Pahar will leave the meeting and not participate in the debate or voting on this item. Councillor Jamieson declared a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in the item CCL 064A-22, management agreements, Hurstville Golf Club and Hurstville Aquatic Leisure Centre, for the reason that she helped in Bluefit membership issues. She has, sorry, this must read, she has helped Bluefit membership issues circa 2017. As this is non-significant, non-pecuniary disclosure, Councillor Jamieson will remain in the meeting. Councillor Marnie declared a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item MM041-22, Tree Works Oatley Park, for the reason that he is a member of Oatley Flora and Fauna Conservation Society, which is making inquiries about this matter. As this is a non-significant, non-pecuniary disclosure, Councillor Marnie will remain in the meeting. We'll go on to public participation of various items in the agenda. There are 8 tonight. There are 8 speakers registered for tonight's meeting, but I'd like to remind them that speakers have 3 minutes time limit. The first sound you hear indicates that you have 1 minute remaining. At the second sound, please conclude your comments. The first speaker is Adrian Manson with a written submission on the matter in the Community and Culture Committee regarding naming and unnamed roads in Riverwood and Oakley. Could we have that read out? Thank you.
I, Adrian Manson, from 241 Belmore Road, Riverwood, whose property backs onto the proposed name lane, would like to object to the proposed name of Theatre Lane. I find this name would cause me personal trauma from my childhood, and I would consider another name as more appropriate name. I hereby suggest Webb Lane as an alternative. This unnamed lane runs between Webb Street and Short Road, so I think Webb Lane is a much better name. Yours sincerely, and Adrian Manson.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. David Nunn. It's the report of the Community and Culture Committee resident parking permits. Mr. Nunn, thank you.
Just wanted to object to the increasing of lines of the resident parking permits. I feel that you might say it's only $30, but we've just spent last year over $20,000 on maintaining a 10-year-old rusted statue at Cogra Town Square. It's now rusted again. Wondering, are we going to spend another $20,000 to maintain the statue of an American-born American citizen? Just wondering what the purpose of spending so much money, and yet you're managing to spend to put up our rates. I just feel that our parking permits. I feel that parking permits should stay the same, and there should be better accountability for where you're spending our ratepayers' money. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. The next speaker is Gary Miller. It's a written submission. It's about the report from the Assets and Infrastructure meeting, the 11th December. Proposed time, no parking restrictions at Crescent Kingsgrove. Could we have that read out, please?
I'm a resident of Tallawarra Street, Beverly Hills, and I have been raising concerns with council about the illegally parked heavy vehicles and the associated noise problems since 2016. During this time, council has responded to these concerns mainly by enforcement action, which has had some effect in reducing the number of heavy vehicles parking on that section of the Crescent, which is near to Tallawarra Street. While the enforcement action has had some effect in reducing the number of heavy vehicles parking illegally, it has little effect on reducing the noise from heavy vehicles that arrive or depart overnight. These particular heavy vehicles tend to arrive and depart outside normal business hours, thus eluding the council enforcement officers. I note that the report from the acoustic consultant has provided objective evidence to support the claims by residents that the noise generated by these heavy vehicles is causing regular sleep disturbance. There are 19 properties in Tallawarra Street that have an exposure to the industrial sites located on the Crescent. I have spoken to residents of 15 of those properties, all of whom stated that they had their sleep disturbed by the noise from heavy vehicles. One resident who has just sold their house stated that the noise from heavy vehicles was a major factor in their decision to sell. Over the past few years, the noise from refrigerated trucks that have parked in the Crescent has been a major source of annoyance. These trucks typically arrive around 11 p.m. and remain until after 8 a.m. when they can unload at a nearby facility. During this time, the refrigeration unit is running constantly. When residents have spoken to these drivers and asked them to move and park somewhere else, many of them have responded by saying that there are no signs stating that they cannot park here. Residents have spoken to the owner of the receiving facility about this issue, but have received little assistance in addressing the problem. All of the residents I have spoken to regarding the proposal to install no parking 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. motor vehicles under 3-tonne GVM accepted in the Crescent Kingsgrove are strongly in favour of the proposal. If installed, these signs should act as a major deterrent to truck drivers. However, I do have some concerns about how council enforcement officers will be able to take enforcement action, given that the proposed no parking times are outside normal business hours. Residents would be interested to know how council plans to enforce these restrictions. I strongly urge members of this committee to support this proposal. Gary Miller, Tallawarra Street, Beverly Hills.
Thank you. The next person is Mr. Adrian Polhill, in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm speaking about the report to the Community and Culture Committee. I'm very pleased to be here tonight to particularly one part of that report which relates to what's termed city partnerships. I believe this is an absolutely fabulous idea. There are so many communities within New South Wales and particularly the rest of Australia which will benefit so much from a partnership with Georges River Council. I would like the committee and the councillors to actually think a little bit more outside the cities. I'm not sure how you define those cities, but I believe that it's the rural towns and the community centres or the regional centres that will really benefit from working with us and them working with us and we work with them in a partnership to help their communities. Sometimes those communities may only be 10 or 20,000 people strong or even smaller. They're the folks that we really should be reaching out to in this partnerships program. So I urge you, as you look at that report, to look at that word cities and maybe just expand that definition or the wording so that you can really reach out to some wonderful people there in our regional centres. Thank you for your time, and thanks, Mr. Mayor, also for the invitation to meet you at the informal drinks the other week. I really enjoyed it, and I met a number of your staff and a number of councillors there, particularly Councillor Lansbury, who did remind me that many years ago there was a partnership with, I believe you said, Cowra, and so maybe we can reinstall that or some other local regional towns. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. The next person is Ms. Julie Nestorovsky. It's got to do with the report from Assets and Infrastructure, and it has to do with proposed time, no parking restrictions in the Crescent, Kingsgrove. Is written submission. Thank you.
I'm a resident in Tallawarra Street, Beverly Hills, and I am strongly in favour of the proposal for no parking 8 p.m. 6 a.m. motor vehicles under 3-tonne GVM accepted restrictions and no stopping restrictions along the Crescent Kingsgrove. Myself and many residents on Tallawarra Street adjacent to Crescent Kingsgrove have had many issues with heavy vehicles parking, leaving, arriving, idling, loading and unloading trucks, attaching and detaching large trailers and large refrigerated trucks, arriving and idling overnight and during the above mentioned hours. This has caused a lot of stress, not just on myself, but on my whole household. I have 3 young children and the constant disturbances from these heavy vehicles is resulting in lack of sleep almost daily. My young kids will wake to these loud sounds and it is then very hard getting them back to sleep. This then affects their ability to concentrate during the day as they have broken sleep as a result. We have even considered selling our family home as the pressure and stress is just too much at times. We love our street and our neighbours and it is the last thing we want to do, but as with some other residents in the street, they have had to sell as a result of this constant issue with these vehicles. I believe that having these restrictions put in place will make a very big difference. My only concern is how this will be enforced and monitored as it is out of business hours. Thank you for taking my submission, Julie, resident of Tallawarra Street, Beverly Hills.
Thank you. The next person is Ms. Megan Argent in person. Glen Lee, 80 Baronia Parade, Lugano. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Friends of Glenlee Association, I would like to wish Georges River Council a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and express our gratitude for the consideration and work put into advocating to save Glenlee for our LGA and the greater community. Thank you to Acting General Manager David Tutsford and to Meryl Bishop, Director of Environment and Planning, for organising the meetings at the Council boardroom at Parliament House. I understand it is a difficult position to be in as we're seeking funding, but the meetings were conducted as always with kindness and diplomacy. Thank you to Mayor Catrice for your support, and thank you to Councillor Marnie for his tireless work in advocating for the preservation of Glenlee and keeping the issues that need to be addressed on the agenda. Glenlee is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. There is nothing like this property left along the Georges River. If you save Glenlee, people will not only travel from all over our LGA, just as I travelled to the Hurstville Museum and Gallery, to the Hurstville Library and to the Aquatic Centre, they will travel from further afield to our ward. Peakhurst Ward has no cultural facilities or dedicated community space, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The Lugano Peninsula is Pemulwuy's territory, one of the greatest resistance fighters in the First Nations history since the arrival of the First Fleet. The first interaction happened between the First Fleet and the Bidjigal people at Gertrude Point in East Lugano, in Peakhurst Ward. The history of the Bidjigal people is woven into the land that Glenlee constitutes. It is the perfect location to venerate the Bidjigal people and our First Nations history and create a place in which all people from our LGA and the greater community can come to experience and learn from. Peakhurst Ward provides a service to our entire LGA and the Georges River also, a river that provides $2 billion in ecosystem services. The Lugano Peninsula is topographically the highest point in the LGA. The vegetation on its slopes are the only means to slowing and absorbing the runoff. The trees that are on Glenlee protect the river for everyone. So, thank you to Georges River Council for keeping the pressure up and continuing to ask for funding. Let's all turn the comments about there being no funding for a property like this around and find a path forward for all levels of government to come together to save Glenlee for the greater community. Glenlee not only fills a void in our ward, it will service the entire LGA. It is up to all levels of government to make policy and legislation work to preserve it for the greater community. The state heritage listing of Glenlee is dependent on further environmental and Aboriginal cultural heritage studies. If Council are able to investigate item 149 in the Heritage Act 1977 to confirm, if this would support access to the property to undergo these studies, it would be greatly appreciated by the community and possibly if we could extend the IHO in light of this information, if that's plausible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Archie. We have another speaker on Glenlee 80 Barony Parade Laguna, and that's Ms. Caroline Hart, and she's remote.
Good evening. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, you can speak. Hello.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure whether there was some sort of protocol for introduction. Dear councillors and council staff who may be present, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk this evening. My name is Caroline Hart. I'm the Treasurer of Friends of Glenlee, and I've been a Lugano resident for over 30 years. And I happen to live not too far from the property, overlook some of the trees there. But I was unaware of the complete history of the property of Glenlee until that time of the DA in 2021 and the consequent surge in community concern about its future. Several months ago, a Facebook post outlining the threat to the preservation of the property elicited over 550 responses in just a few days from people all over Australia. All were horrified, to use some words, upset, angry or disappointed that such a property with extreme natural beauty and historical significance could face obliteration for residential development. I hadn't known too much about Glenlee at that point, but I did a lot of research about it, and it was a complete revelation for me and others to learn the significance of the site in the early days of colonial settlement. It's a precious connection. If any of you have not read the words of the article by R.A. Harworth about the First Fleet and the early exploration up the Georges River in search of water, and the encounter with Indigenous people, pretty much on the site of Glenlee, it's a poignant reminder of just how significant this site is. And I think we owe it to our younger generation to preserve the site, even though there may not be any firm plans established for its upkeep in future. I think we need to save it first and then think about how we manage it later. I support the motions tabled by Councillor Marnie, tabled B, C, D and E, in relation to an application for heritage listing and for a proper full assessment of the heritage value, and also for council to seek funding for acquisition. In recent times, we've seen council voting unanimously in favour of looking for opportunities for acquisition of the property, and it's raised community expectations fairly high, and we hope that some resolution is found. I've also noted that some measures have been put forward, such as open space per head of population, that suggests that Peakhurst Ward already has more than its fair share. But I would also point out that Gannon and Ebbett Park and the golf course are indeed large open spaces within the ward, but they provide much needed facilities for recreation for people, not only in Peakhurst, but the wider GRC community and beyond, for that matter. Council rightly acknowledges the connection with the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, and therefore should explore all opportunities to evaluate Indigenous heritage values of the property. Acquisition of Glenlee for the benefit of the wider GRC community represents a never to be repeated chance for council to take decisive action and acknowledge residents'
I
desire.
have to interrupt you at this point. Could you please round off?
Okay.
You've gone over half a minute. Thank you.
Okay. Acquisition of Glenlee for the benefit of wider GRC community represents a never to be repeated chance. We hope that council takes decisive action to preserve the property for future generations. And we urge council to make another attempt to make contact with the owners and seek some sort of path forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ms. Kim Wagstaff. It's got to do with tree vandalism. Ms. Wagstaff.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and
addressing you councillors as well. I congratulate Council for implementing in March this year an initiative to install signage at vandalised public tree sites. As proposed in this motion, the signs advise the community to contact Council should they have any information relating to the vandalism to enable enforcement to be initiated. The resulting enforcement actions, and they include, since March this year, the issue of 3 penalty infringement notices, indicate that the initiative has had some initial success in not only punishing offenders, but also informing and educating the public on the value of trees to our local communities and the environment. On this point, I'd like to suggest that Council work more closely with community on all aspects of its tree management operations on public land, such as streets and reserves. These are valuable opportunities to interact with the community to inform and educate. For example, last Thursday, the community was confronted with the closure of Oatley Park to traffic. Those who ventured in on foot or bike soon witnessed the progressive so-called heavy reduction of the 3 very old and large angophoras in the adventure playground, as well as 3 or 4 other trees in various stages of pruning. Though the 3 angophoras were not completely removed, they were actually left as the very skeletal habitat trees. The central area of the playground has lost most of its shade. Now, I don't need to tell you that Oatley Park is well loved by our community, and no advance notice was given that this work was to take place. As a relevant and prominent community organisation, which I am representing tonight, OFF was not even contacted. Naturally, it caused great consternation and a large number of inquiries and complaints. People were asking, why was this work done? Why was it such a rush job? Why wasn't anybody told? The trees were there before the playground. Why was it built in that location? We still haven't got the full story of why this work was done and in the way it was. Some information was dribbled out, but from different sources and by different mediums. I ask respectfully that Council publish a comprehensive statement on this work on its website. The community cannot be expected to accept the outcomes if it is not given all the relevant information and was not consulted in the first place. Trust in Council is undermined. In regard to any new tree planting proposed, OFF is quite willing to work with Council in planning and undertaking this necessary and important work. We are concerned that we are actually going backwards in terms of reaching the tree canopy target for the LGA, with tree removals now exceeding new trees planted. So I support the motion. A key component of achieving increased compliance with Council policies is communicating with and informing and educating the whole community. Please continue to communicate with Oatley Flora and Fauna and the wider community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. We'll now go on to confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. This is CCL 117-22, confirmation of the minutes to the ordinary council meeting held on the 28th of November 2020. Moved by Councillor Lansbury. Light. Seconded by Councillor O'Meara. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Now we're going to the mayoral minutes, and the first minute is at MM 038-22 campaign progress report, working together for better building certification. I wish to provide you with an update on our campaign, working together for better certification. We have commenced our campaign to seek improvements to the certification system to ensure construction activity and the industry is more open, transparent, responsive and accountable. The campaign involved hearing from our community and industry bodies to get a greater understanding of the issues relating to construction activity, dealing with private certifiers and identifying areas of improvement. We will use this information to assist us in our campaign for lobbying for a change in the certification industry, including an accountable and responsive process for certifiers. The campaign to hear stories from our community commenced on the 24th of November and will run to the 9th of January 2023. To date, we have heard stories from 18 residents. Discussions have also occurred with representatives from the certification sector. To drive for change, the Acting General Manager has written to the Honourable Anthony Roberts, Minister for Planning, and the Honourable Victor Dominella, Minister for Fair Trading, requesting a meeting to discuss some of these areas for change, including improvement of processes and procedures to enhance openness and transparency, such as documentation relating to all CDCs, compliant development certificates, is easily made available to public via a publicly accessible, easy to use portal. Increased responsiveness and accountability for the certifier in determining certificates, responding to complaints, and managing construction site. This may be achieved by actions such as mandatory completion of documentation, such as site inspection forms, with these forms lodged on a portal with 24 hours of the inspection, within 24 hours of the inspection, allowing councils to issue penalty notices for a broader range of breaches of the legislation, such as the failure of payment of development contributions or long service levy, and not providing the information or documentation required to be submitted to a council prior to the issues of the construction certificate. I intend to write to the local members, all councils in Sydney metropolitan area and local government New South Wales, seeking their support for change. I wish to acknowledge and support the drive to improve the certification process being pursued by Hornsby Shire Council and the Northern Sydney Regional Organisation of Councils, specifically in their initiative of how a private certifier is assigned to a site development via an approval pool of certifiers or taxi rank system where certifiers are assigned in sequential order from an approved list of certifiers. The motion is, councillors, that the Mayor write to the local members, all councils in Sydney metropolitan area and local government New South Wales, seeking their support for change and improvements to the certification system to ensure construction activity and the industry is more open, transparent and responsive and accountable. Is there any discussion on this? As there's no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. The next item is Grow It Local. It is with great pleasure that I recommend that Georges River Council becomes a member of Grow It Local, an initiative that is all about encouraging and supporting our community to grow, share and eat local produce. Grow It Local provides its members with a seed service, monthly workshops, targeted seasonal garden programs, activities and events to support growing food. Grow It Local supports our objective and the pillars within the community strategic plan as it aims to achieve food waste diversion, creating positive sustainable living behaviours, community connection and capacity building, climate change resilience. By being a Grow It Local partner, it will provide council and the community with access to a comprehensive digital platform in the areas of education and inclusion in seasonal programs, support in the delivery of council initiatives and programs, provide real data on composting, food waste diversion, land area under cultivation and what is growing locally, how local community members are engaging and connecting with each other, a localised impact report on the program's waste, environmental, social and economic impacts achieved in our LGA. I think it's a wonderful program, and I did visit the community gardens in Riverwood. I was astounded, and the member for Oatley was also there. Of course, George, what was his name? Georgiades, I can't remember the person who's on the ABC. Is it called? Costa, that's right. It's Costa Georgiades. He was there and he was rather impressed, and I suggest that if you get a bit of time, go and visit those community gardens. They're quite a sight and quite a success story. The motion is that council support Georges River Council becoming a partner of Grow It Local, and the appropriate funds are allocated in the 2023-2024 budget to support that process. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, I'll put all those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. The next one is review of community grants eligibility. This motion is consistent with the Georges River Council Community Strategic Plan 2022 to 2032, namely Pillar 6, our governance, in particular 6.2, our decisions are based on evidence which considers financial impacts, the environment and impacts on future generations. 6.3, our community knows why and how decisions are made. Section 356 of the Local Government Act stipulates that financial assistance can be provided to the community. The policy has been designed to incorporate the requirements of this section of the Act. The grants, donations and sponsorship policy was approved in accordance with the Council Resolution CCL 016-20 on the 20th of April 2020 and is due for review in April 2023. The grants, donations and sponsorship policy guides the application process, allocation, evaluation of funding to address the community needs under Section 356 of the Local Government Act 1993. Georges River Council's grants, donations and sponsorship programs support initiatives and projects that build the social, cultural, environmental and economic life of the area. Through these programs, council partners with the community and businesses to further the actions, strategic directions and visions of the community, of Council's community strategic plan. Council seeks to optimise the use of public funds through effective and efficient grant processes and clear grant programs, objectives linked to the organisation's strategic goals. I wish to request a review of the eligibility criteria of Council's community grants program to ensure an equitable application process for all applicants and to confirm that Council's other grants programs cater for community and organisations and residents. My motion is that the General Manager prepare a report reviewing the eligibility criteria for Council's community grants program to ensure an equitable application process in accordance with Section 356 of the Local Government Act. B, that the report outlines a review of implications of the following aspects of the community grants program. I, the entity status of eligible groups, including small groups that function on a not-for-profit basis. Double I, the requirements for organisations receiving over $15,000 in financial assistance from Council to submit their audited financial statements be amended so that any organisation considered a small charity by ACNC is exempt from this requirement. Applications for projects with religious purposes. Is there any discussion on this matter? Being no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. And we come to the mayoral minute regarding the tree works at Oatley Park, which also addresses the issues that were raised by one of the speakers tonight. Mr. Wagstaff, sorry. Following the recent large branch failure of a mature Sydney red gum adjacent to the Oakley Park Adventure Playground, council's AQF8 and AQF5 qualified arborists undertook detailed visual and aerial inspections of six large canopy trees located within the close proximity to the adventure playground. The trees that were inspected include 4 Sydney red gums, 1 Wollongara white gum, and 1 grey gum. The structural condition of the 4 Sydney red gums raised significant concerns of a high potential for failure, and due to the high pedestrian activity in and around the adventure playground, were deemed by the council's arborists to pose a significant risk to public safety. Remedial works were prioritised as urgent for completion prior to the commencement of the school holidays. The inspections results revealed that 3 of the Sydney red gums had significant hollows and cavities within the primary scaffolds and were in a state of decline, with one of these also displaying significant decay within the root crown. As a result, heavy reduction of the trees to reduce wind sail was undertaken, with retention of several hollows to be available as habitat for native fauna. The 4th Sydney red gum was assessed to be in a state of decline, and all live growth entirely compromised by epicormic shoots. As this tree was beyond all practical management options, complete removal was undertaken. Council is currently in the process of procuring replacement trees for Oakley Park that will include 4 400-litre trees and 6 200-litre trees native to the area. It is anticipated that replanting will be completed by March-April 2023. Council will also seek the assistance of community groups throughout the selection and planning process for new trees. The motion is that Council notes the works currently being taken at Oakley Park, and I think the request of Mr. Wagstaff was it to appear on the council webpage, the Merrill Minute. So if we could add that, I think it'd be a good idea. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Marnie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, please, to the Director. Just wanted to know when these trees were first assessed as dangerous. Thank you.
Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. By memory, it was around 4 weeks ago, Peter.
Mr. Mundy, Councillor Mundy.
Thank you. Yeah, could I just reiterate the comments made by Mr. Wagstaff from Oakley Flora and Fauna? I've had numerous phone calls and approaches by members of the public on Friday and over the weekend about this. It's certainly changed the look of Oakley Park. I won't say for better or for worse, but people are really concerned about it. And I'd just like to echo Mr. Wagstaff's request that we maybe look in the future when we review this tree policy that we can give, in non-urgent cases at least, we can give the community organisations some notice so that we can maybe, damp down the emotional effect of large trees being removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marty. We'll now go on to committee reports. The report of the finance. Sorry. Oh, condolences. Yes. Are there any condolence motions?
We need to vote on the last one.
Oh, okay. Tree works. I'll put that one. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against say no.
No.
Still declared carried. Thank you. Now, are there any condolence? Are there any condolence motions? Councillor O'Meara.
Mr. Mayor, earlier this week, a close friend of mine, Dr. Zena Murhi, passed away suddenly due to some very sad circumstances. She was in the process of preparing for her daughter's wedding. Last week on Thursday, she became very ill very quickly. Obviously, with everything that was going on, didn't want to go into hospital, despite the fact that she was a doctor, but to the advice of her dear friend, who was also a doctor, she was convinced to go take some scans, and unfortunately, what was found was a very severe internal bleeding scenario that unfortunately took her life only 3 days later. This is extremely sad, and for a community in Georges River, Dr. Zena Murhi has been pivotal in the work that she does in the medical field, not just in Georges River, but also across the board and across the world, across the globe. She's been heavily involved with AusRelief, a not-for-profit organisation that travels across the globe assisting less fortunate communities, and was one of the first doctors, general practitioners, that was involved with that organisation, and then encouraged many other doctors and health professionals to get involved. She's going to be sorely missed by the community. Her legacy will live on through the many lives that she's improved throughout her very short time on this earth. And I want to pay my respects to her family and her community, and wish that council can extend those as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. Very sad indeed. Councillor Lansbury, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to, on behalf of the councillors, extend our condolences to the Acting General Manager, Mr. David Tuxford, on the recent passing of his mum. It doesn't matter how old you are, it's always a very sad thing when it happens, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional like that. I thought a bit about David. All of us would just like to pass on our condolences to you and your family at this very difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. Are there any further condolences? I think could we stand just for a short, stand for a moment, silence, please. Thank you. Thank you. We now go to the committee reports. The first report is CCL 118-22, report of the Finance and Governance Committee meeting held on the 12th of December. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the recommendation that the Finance and Governance Committee recommendations for items FIN 057-22 to FIN 058-22 be adopted by Council.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Moult, yes. Could you all please try dealing with your the little red light? Thank you. Now, is there any discussion on these matters? As there not, I'll put all those in favour say aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. Now we go on to CCL 119-22, report of the Assets and Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 12th of December 2022. Councillor Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move all items on the committee report apart from AS 039-22, the local traffic committee report. I'd like to speak on an item on that.
Thank you. We have a seconder, Councillor Mr. Mayor. Councillor Konjowski. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Gary and Julie for their submissions tonight. They've contacted me numerous times over the years, Gary probably since 2017, in relation to how they've been impacted by the illegal heavy vehicle parking near them. And even when Julie was pregnant with her third child, she couldn't get any respite from that noise. So I'm so happy that there are going to be signs installed, and that means there is like a visual panorama saying that the trucks can't park there, but the residents are naturally inquisitive about what the enforcement plan that we have, like how we're going to stop that when they park out of business hours, say from 11 p.m. And I don't want to see residents out there taking photos, putting themselves at risk, then doing a stat declaration, because then we're putting all this onus back on them and it all goes back in a circle again. So I'd like to, my question is to the Director of Environment Planning, Ms Bishop, how does Council plan to address that? Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to Councillor Simington, look, it's only a matter that's come to my attention this evening, so I will take this on board to consider it. But the parking issues and the concerns that happen in the Crescent aren't new to the environment planning, the regulatory team. So once those signs are in place, a couple of things that we can do, but as I say, I'll clarify this once I speak to the experts, my manager, is that we can do some spot checks. We'll go out in the middle of the night. We may do it, let's say once the signs are installed, we go out there and we can see what's going on. We might do it, 3 nights a week, 5 nights a week, 4 nights a fortnight, not sure. Then what I would suggest is that if the residents continue to have concerns out there, they notify us. We then go and do it as well. We can then go back and put it into our patrol program. The other thing, and then we can continuously, every 3 months, allocate time to go and have a look. Once you start issuing those fines, trucks seem to move on fairly quickly because I'm assuming it's coming out of the driver's pocket. The other issue the other thing we could also do, if it is ongoing, through our relationships with the local command, we can go and talk to them about those patrols, particularly in the middle of the night. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any further discussion? Oh, sorry. Yeah, Councillor Ball.
I just had a question. The two speakers spoke quite specifically about refrigeration trucks and that they were coming and making noises all night. And it sounds like there's obviously a business that they're all going to. Is there, through the General Manager to the Director, is there any thing that can be done from a compliance perspective for the business, that they have a plan of management or something that is managing those vehicles that are staying there overnight before they receive their deliveries? Or is that anything Council can do in that regard?
Through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Ball, was there not can I just ask Councillor Simington, was there not one of the residents mentioned an acoustics report?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is something we can investigate in relation to a compliance matter, but we'd have to try and link it, of course, not to the truck, to the operations. But that is something that we can investigate. I think it's a good point. Whether we can get I'm sure we'll find that acoustics report and we'll take them from there with the health team and with the parking team. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Well, it's been moved by Councillor Simon, seconded by Councillor Konjowski. I'll put it, all those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried, and we go to the report of the Community and Culture Committee. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just would like to move all the recommendations for all the items in the report as printed.
Thank you. Could you have a second? Second by Councillor Elmir. Is there any discussion on any of the matters? Councillor Murray.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. With regard to the naming of Theatreland Riverwood, one of the speakers mentioned some sort of trauma that might be caused by using that name. Look, I know the consultation period is finished, but I'm just asking if there's any way we can maybe address that topic. Thanks.
I suppose directed to the directly involved. Ms Christie.
Through you, Mr Mayor, unless the council resolved to extend the consultation period. However, the resident who did register to speak tonight also did put a submission in. So within the report, you'll be able to see the response to each objection and reasons for justification. So I think the name suggestion is not allowed. That was suggested tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on any of the other items? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare that carried. And we now go to the next item, which is
excuse me, Mr Mayor, I just have a question procedurally. Yes. That's okay. everyone may have noticed that there are no environment and planning minutes on the agenda for us to adopt tonight. I'm just asking for a bit of a clarification around that. We did actually meet last week, and
We did.
yeah, and I'm assuming that would be because there were no actual items on the agenda. So we don't need to adopt any. Okay, right.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. We'll now go to another item of the Finance and Governance applications pursuant to the Council Award Discretionary Fund, December 2022. Have we any discussion on this? Okay, Councillor.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Okay, second,
Second.
Councillor Elmire. As there's no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Now we're going to the notices of motion. The first one is NM 098-22, bipartisan agreement to the introduction of a cashless gambling card. Oh, sorry, yes, Councillor Ashmore and Behaviour has declared an interest. And we'll wait to.
I'd like to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry?
I'd like to second that.
Let's that's Councillor Marnie. You're moving it and you're seconding it. Thank you. Did you want to talk to it, Councillor Marnie?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Okay, in addition to the information provided in the comprehensive report compiled by our diligent director, Wesley Mission has advised that in the first 2 quarters of 2022, poker machine losses in the George River LGA total 1.2 million per day. It's also alarming that in terms of poker profits statewide, one local hotel ranked 7th and a local club was 22nd highest. These figures these are not figures we can be proud of. The New South Wales Crime Commission's Project Islington found that poker machines constitute a money laundering risk because they accept cash, and I quote, "Cash continues to be the primary method by which criminals obtain wealth from dealing in illicit commodities." Another quote, "The extent of money laundering via EGMs or electronic gaming machines or pokies cannot be precisely quantified, but the inquiry assesses it to be widespread and significant," unquote. The inability to record large cash transactions at licensed venues, which is presently the case, makes the prosecution of money laundering offences in pubs and clubs impossible. In August, as councillors, we resolved unanimously for staff to prepare a report on initiatives which council can undertake in collaboration with state government agencies and Wesley Mission to address problem gambling within the local government area, such as promoting education programs that raise awareness about risks associated with poker machines and online gambling. If we adopt this resolution tonight, I believe we as councillors will help pave the way towards addressing gambling addiction and money laundering, not just within the George River LGA, but across the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody else need to talk to? No?
I hope it's okay if I don't stand. I'm not feeling too well right now.
Okay, I understand.
So I've previously submitted wording for an amendment to the motion where, should I read it out?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know how this works. I haven't done an amendment before. I've just moved a motion so the motion would now state that council writes to the Honourable Dominic Perrottet MP, Premier of New South Wales, and the Honourable Chris Minns MP, Leader of the Opposition in New South Wales, with a view to seeking their bipartisan agreement to the introduction of the cashless gambling card and other consumer protection technologies in principle, and calls for an expansion of the trial of cashless cards at pubs and clubs as part of an evidence-based approach to tackling money laundering and problem gambling in New South Wales. Thank you.
Is that acceptable to the mover?
That's fine, thank you.
Seconder? You accepted that. Okay, well, that becomes the motion. Is there any further discussion on this? As there is none, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. We're now going to Glenn Lee, Councillor Marnie. Notice of motion, Glenn Lee, 80 Baroni O'Farrell. Yeah. Thank you. We have a motion from Councillor Marnie. Do we? Oh, Councillor Konjowski, seconded by Councillor Konjowski. Councillor Marnie, did you want to move your motion and talk to it? Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I do have an amendment, but I'd just like to say to members of the public that have constantly backed this acquisition plan for Glenlee for the last, I don't know, year and a half. I really appreciate that, and I really acknowledge the support given by every councillor since the new council began in January this year towards acquisition and protection of Glenlee. So thanks for that. So my amendment, if I could, I've sent it through to the staff, but would you like me to read it out anyway?
Yes, by all means.
Okay, so I'd like to add F, that the Acting General Manager investigates whether or not access to Glenlee 80 Baroni Parade Lugano by council officers and council appointed consultants to carry out inspections for natural history and Aboriginal relics can be authorised by the Minister for Environment and Heritage under Section 148 of the Heritage Act 1977. And the next item is G, that if the Minister for Environment and Planning authorises council officers and council appointed consultants to carry out inspections of Glenlee, council requests Mr. James Griffin MP, Minister for Environment and Heritage, to urgently consider a new interim heritage order for a period of 12 months to allow for the inspection of the property to be undertaken for the purposes of a complete assessment of its Aboriginal cultural and natural heritage values.
Councillor Konjowski, is that acceptable to you?
Yes, it is.
Well,
Yes, it is.
thank you.
And
Well,
sorry,
the
Mr. Mayor,
amendments
could I
that
just
come
add,
from motion, did you want to talk further to it?
just to say that I wanted to thank sincerely the Director of Planning, Ms. Bishop, and Manager of Strategic Planning, Catherine McMahon, who has helped me with all of these motions and really got the item out there. So appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Is there any further discussion on this item? As they're not, I'll put it. I'll put all those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I declare it carried. The NM 100-22, congratulations to the Macedonian Cultural and Artistic Association, Ilinden, for the Macedonian Festival. Councillor Konjowski. Did you want to talk to it?
I'd like a second, if that's all right.
What? Sorry? Sorry, we need to second. Oh, Councillor O'Meara, thank you.
Thank you. That was nice. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I just wanted to say what a fantastic event that was on that Sunday afternoon. And I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for attending, along with Councillor Ashleen Amby-Hapaha, Councillor Colleen Symington, Councillor Sam Elmere, and Councillor Veronica Fakara were all there, and I'm sure that they can. And Councillor
just a minute,
Lou. Yes, I said that. I said you first.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Mayor, you were there, and I was going to say also what a fantastic speech you made on the day. It was very inspiring. I just wanted to say that it was a fantastic day, and despite it being so hot, I think everybody had a great time. So much so that the general comments that I was getting from the crowd was, we should be doing this every month. My highlight, however, of the day was when a young Bangladeshi girl got up and sang two of the most difficult songs, Macedonian songs that I know, and she sang them brilliantly, perfectly, and it was inspiring. The other thing I'd like to say is that on the day, the kebapi rolls were sold out, and in fact there was something like 10,000 little kebapi brought to the event, and they were all gone. So I suspect that there must have been in excess of 5,000 people that came to attend that particular event throughout the day. and I've spoken to the event organisers who have been named on my notice of motion, and they are starting plans already to build a even bigger and better event for next year. And I look forward to attending that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kontoski. I must admit, it was a very colourful, very energetic, very inspiring festival, and I did enjoy it, and I'm sure everybody that attended enjoyed it. Well, does anybody want to say anything further?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, it was quite hot. Okay, well, I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against say no. Declare it carried. The next,
Mr. Mayor.
yes,
Correction. That was moved by Councillor Konyaski, seconded by me.
what's going up there?
Supposed to be the other way around.
Oh, yes, it was moved by, thank you. You're on top of things, Councillor Elmere. It's very good to see. And the next one is in the name of Councillor Moore, NM 101-22, tree vandalism. Councillor Moore. We have a seconder. Councillor Lansbury.
Okay, just like to speak tonight, Mayor, Councillor. The motion I propose tonight to Council is to assist our ratepayers to report an attempt to cease the growing incident of tree vandalism throughout our LGA. As we all know, trees are an asset in our community, and we are fortunate to belong in an LGA that is blessed with thousands of trees that line our streets and enhance our parks and public spaces. However, what has become more frequent with youth, I'll need my glasses. What has become more frequent with the rise of property development and the decline in community attitude, some people are taking it upon themselves to participate in the illegal poisoning of our trees for their own benefit. While I understand it is extremely difficult for council to catch and prosecute these offenders, we do have an army of keen-eyed, diligent ratepayers who are more than willing to report offenders and highlight damaged trees to council. However, we need to ensure that they are supported by providing clear signage throughout our community of who to contact at council, and a speedy response will follow. And at the same time, perhaps act as a deterrent to any potential offenders. Therefore, Mayor, this motion is to put forward to install signs calling for information from the public and consideration to be given to leaving the poison dead tree in situ until a time when it becomes a danger to public. But in the meantime, prove as a deterrent against further acts of vandalism. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lansbury, did you want to?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll waive my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's very interesting. I do want to bring to light a story, not a story, but a situation that developed on the Central Coast. I was thinking about 5 or 6 trees were poisoned by someone who wanted to improve the view. They had to be cut down, but the council, in the place of the trees, put a huge banner, which is about 1.5 metres wide by about twice the length of this room, where the trees were cut down, which cut down the views of those people that wanted to increase their views. So it's another ploy. It's something that we can act in certain areas where we know that they've been destroyed because trying to increase their views. Just put a huge banner in front of where the trees were destroyed, and I'm sure people will learn not to destroy the trees in such cases. But no, thank you for that, Councillor Maud. Does anybody want to speak to this? No? Okay, well, I'll then put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. We're now going to the notice of motion 102. Thank you. I appreciate your enthusiasm. Anyway, let's keep going. Notice of motion 102-22. Congratulations to Chinese community groups for the programs and activations delivered in the Georges River area throughout 2002. Councillor Liu, and do we have a seconder? It looks like it's
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ben Wayne.
I had my line on before you, Ben.
No, no.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just want to move my motion as it is printed in the paper. The council congratulates the Chinese community groups involved in the delivery of a number of community programs and activations in the Georges River LGA throughout 2022. Over the year, a number of Chinese community groups have initiated, facilitated, and supported programs and activations that have provided social support, participation, and well-being for our Georges River Chinese community. So that's why I wanted to move this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wayne, did you want to say something?
Yes, so I fully supported Councillor Nancy Liu's motion to congratulate the Chinese community to deliver the strategic target, and also like to thank the staff for working closely and productively for with the local Chinese community to deliver the community programs and activations in the LGA. So I personally was also very active in the Chinese community. So I'd like to make through you to the director to make a small suggestion to add one additional Chinese group to the list of in the comments section. Yeah, so this group is called Heroes Light Volleyball Incorporation. So it's local non-profit sports group, and they have been very active in the community, organizing 3 times a week volleyball games with typically more than 50 people, local people playing. And during the COVID period, this group provided much needed social support for the local community. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Wayne, the only problem is you can't really add it to the director's comment because they're director's comments. The only way you can do it is add it to the motion, but Councillor Liu's intention, from what I can see, is to congratulate all these community groups, and the director has the only one that has the right to add that person is the director for that group. That's the way I see it, unless you see it some other way. Yeah, we can't change it.
So if it's if we can change the
but if you change Councillor Liu's motion, you're only referring to one group, whereas the body of the report has quite a few groups. So unfortunately, unless you
in normal, in the normal.
Councillor Wayne, I think as the director alluded to, you have verbally acknowledged them.
Yeah. So can we put this just in writing, because this one is, I think it's an outstanding group in the Chinese community.
Councillor Simon, you want?
Couldn't we like do a list of all the groups in the comments and add the group that the Councillor Wang's talking about, and just put it under there where you say congratulate, and put all the in the recommendation.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if Councillor Liu is happy to make that amendment to the motion and add the list of groups into the motion itself.
Well, the only way you could do it, Councillor, is to basically add further to the groups. You could add to your motion further to the groups identified in the director's comment. We also identify the group. If you're happy to do that, that's all.
Yeah. Thank you. I just tried to clarify what would be
what's going on. Yeah, let me put it to you.
Protocol to comments on the director's comments. So my motion is very simple. Just not try to exclude or any of the community groups, because not only Chinese community, in our Georges River LGA, there are millions of ethnic community groups who put their outstanding effort into our council's multicultural programs and activities. So that's why when I try to do my motion, my point is not try to exclude any one of it. So that's why I didn't try to name any of it. That's only the director's comment. So I don't want to, change my motion, because my motion in the main point, I didn't try to name any of it, because I try to include everyone. You can't say this one is outstanding, the other one is not outstanding. That's not my point. Can I? I'm not quite sure whether I might put everything in.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the problem we have is that Councillor Wang would like to indicate that he wants to congratulate another group, but unfortunately he cannot do it in the director's comments. So we can either...
Yeah, that's my first time too.
Well, actually that's probably more sensible. Next time round, could you put a different notice of motion? It's sorry about sensible, because you cannot put it in the director's comments. We probably should have clarified when we were having the briefing. Well, there is one change there. If you'd like to, have a look at what that's been suggested. Further to the list of community groups listed within the director's comments, that Heroes Like Volleyball be added to the list.
Yeah, so that will be great. Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to do it, but I just try to, don't get me wrong, I don't have any position against any of these community groups, Councillor Wang. But I don't want to the other community groups to turn around and say, Nancy, I'm part of the community. My group did a great job. Why you think I'm not in the list? Because in the list, only within the director's comments, only include, I think, less than 20. We have millions of those groups in it, including cultural and arts, crafts, cultural and any performing groups, a lot of us sports. Yeah, don't get me wrong, Mr. Wang. I don't want to say, in the end, someone will tell the community, Councillor Liu doesn't want to include you. No, that's not my point. That's not my point. If I want to do it, I will include all those millions of groups in my main body of my motion. Yeah. I didn't do it. That's why.
You already did that.
Yeah, look, I don't think
that's not mine. That's a director's comments. Do you understand that?
We discussed that one before the meetings. I thought it should be just the smooth, the procedure addition to the name.
Well,
so we already
the only way it can be done,
to include everyone into it.
We already agreed before the meeting.
Yeah.
Why are we making
the general manager would like to make a comment.
That's a suggestion, it's not an amendment.
It has to be an amendment to the motion if council decide to go down this path. So what we have there can occur with the approval of the mover of the motion, being Councillor Liu, or we can go further and put a new list within the motion, which would include the new group that you're talking. So it might be simply something like, congratulations to the Chinese community groups that appear below for the purpose and activation, for the programs and activation delivered in the Georges River area throughout 2022. That can also occur, which can then include the Heroes Volleyball. If that again is okay with the mover of the motion.
So if you're not okay, we just put it to vote to see what the councillors say. If you're okay, we just
look, I don't think we're going to be able to have a discussion across the
protocol. Nothing to do with.
Look, the only way we're going to be able to do is if you want to move an amendment to that, which is indicated here.
Yep.
Someone seconds it.
Yep.
And then we vote on it.
Yep.
That's about as far as we can go. Councillor Elby, did you want to ask a question or anything like that?
Yeah, if it's my time.
Sorry?
Yeah, if it's my chance.
Yeah, please.
Because I'm seeing multiple. I don't want to be the third person standing. Mr. Mayor, a couple of questions. One being, what does a congratulations look like? What are we suggesting through you, Mr. Mayor?
So I'm not sure what, that'll have to go to Councillor Liu or the director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we send a letter to the organisation congratulating them on behalf of council from the mayor.
Okay. The other question being, and I take Councillor Liu's points that she made, but I also take on board what Councillor Wang's suggestion. I guess from the point of governance is that we've got to look at this. Councillor Wang has suggested heroes like volleyball. I'm not familiar with that group. I'm not sure if council officers are familiar with that group and what sort of work is being done, but I believe that there would be a process involved to understand exactly the extent of the work that they do and what sort of work that they do to be able to offer congratulations. Because, Mr. Mayor, I look at this now in terms of going back to Councillor Liu's point in what sort of blanket approach you're applying here, or do you now start just picking organisation after organisation? If my suggestion would be, if this was a congratulatory message to community groups across the board in the LGA, because there are thousands of groups in the LGA that do great work, and if we provided a congratulatory message on our website, thanking them for the great year that they have provided in assisting the community in all walks of life, for all communities, for all ethnicities, for all religions, then that would be a thank you that I think would be sufficient to the community, right? I tread very carefully when we start going into the element of segregating different communities, because I think each community sort of works within their own scope of the challenges that are faced within that community, and there are things that people are very passionate about. And then how do council officers then get the details of what each and every community group is involved with? How do you then try and siphon through all these community groups and send them letters and know where you need to post it or where you need to send it? However, if we adopt an approach that makes it a web page, a home web page, thank you, towards the end of Christmas, and really acknowledge all the great work that community groups do across the LGA, I think that might be a great way to thank many community groups across our local government area and have a greater encompassing aspect of saying thank you. So
Yeah,
my
so your
suggestion would be,
what would your suggestion be in these
well, I
circumstances?
would suggest that council congratulate the many community groups involved in the delivery of a number of community programs and activations in the Georges River local government area throughout 2022 on council's website.
Well, that's entirely up to Councillor Liu. She's prepared to accept that.
I think the director has a comment.
The director.
And I'm happy to take advice on this.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just the way I developed the list in the director's comments were Chinese community groups who either hire council's venues or operate out of council's venues, or apply for community grants and have received them. So that's where that particular list came from, because yes, you're right, there would be lots of other organisations, but council hasn't directly affiliated with them in 2022.
I just have a question. I believe that the Heroes Like Volleyball did receive a council discretionary award fund grant. So
yeah.
Noted, they may have done that. This NOM was put together by our events and community capacity building team, who work directly with those groups. Yeah.
All right, we've come to a situation that we either accept an amendment. I think at this stage, the person that's got the call is Councillor Wang. If he wants to proceed and proceed with his issue, then he'd have to move this notice of motion, this amendment, and it's up to whether Councillor Liu would accept it. If she doesn't accept it, then he would have to find a seconder to put his amendment, and then we vote on it. So now at this stage, you can have, I can take another amendment,
Which is
but
what?
we'll have to take it in order as to the first amendment and then the second amendment.
So what would the order be then?
The order, just The order, I think, and we'd have to look it up. I think the order is the last amendment or is it the first amendment? Councillor Wayne's amendment? Okay, so it's Councillor Wayne's amendment that he's got to ask Councillor Liu as to whether she will accept this amendment. Councillor Liu, if you could just the amendment is let's look at it. Further to the list of community groups listed within the director's comments, that the Hero Volleyball be added to the list. So, by all means, yes. Yeah.
Thank you. My question is, this is a congratulatory notice of motion. Isn't it just as easy if Councillor Wang puts a notice of motion next February to congratulate the heroes in volleyball?
Yes, since we're here,
prepared to do that, or are you wanting to?
I'd rather just add to it. We get it done.
And well,
at the end of the
then,
year.
then it's up to Councillor Liu whether she accepts the amendment. Is that? Is it further to this? It's part B. A and B, yes. It becomes A and B. Are you accepting it or not accepting it, Councillor?
Oh, Mr. Mayor? Yes. Yeah, before I accepting it, I just, last chance, try to clarify how to avoid that we try to congratulate these limited groups rather than, you know, all the other groups that put into, yeah, that's my point. You do not need to.
Well, the other thing is, I just heard from the director saying that that you give the director a list of the groups you want congratulated without listing those people in the Chinese community. In other words, you and Ben provide a list of people in the Chinese community that you would like to congratulate. She can send out congratulatory letters. Although the councillors provide a list of Chinese community groups that they wish to send, that they wish the director to send letters out to. It's a compromise, but it may work.
I think, I accept this amendment.
Sorry?
I accept this amendment.
This one?
Yes.
This one, you accept
yes.
that one? Okay.
Yes.
Well, the amendment's been accepted, so we'll leave it at that. So we don't need any more discussion. Is that you have the right of reply, Councillor?
Yeah, I'm all right.
I'm
all right. I think I'm helping myself and Councillor Wang as well. Yeah, in the end, the people would say you include your people and not include the others. Okay, my point is that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Wayne. I'll put it.
Can I make an amendment?
Is there someone wanting to say something? Oh, Councillor.
On second, on second put it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Now, we do have a question. I noticed, do you have any further questions, Councillor Marnie?
No
questions.
No, thank you.
No further questions. Well, councillors, it brings us to the confidential items. And you'll move. Well, I need to read this out. The recommendation is and I have to read the whole lot out. So be patient. Council's Code of Meeting Practice allows members of the public present to indicate whether they wish to make representations to the meeting before it closes to the public as to whether that part of the meeting dealing with any or all of the matters listed should or should not be considered in closed session. Do any members of the public out there want to make submissions regarding that? Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Have a nice Christmas, if I don't see you. Now, the recommendation that in accordance with provision of Part 1 of Chapter 4 of the Local Government Act 1993, the following matters be considered in closed meeting at which the press and the public are excluded. Management agreements, Hurstville Golf Course, Hurstville Aquatic Centre, report by the manager of premium facilities, that in accordance with the provisions of Part 1 of Chapter 4 of the Local Government Act 1993, the matter dealt with in this report be considered in closed council meeting at which the press public are excluded in accordance with section 10A2C. It is considered a matter of information that would, if disclosed, confer commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting all purposes to conduct businesses, that in accordance with section 10D, it is considered that if the matter were discussed in open council, it would on balance be contrary to the public interest as it is information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or purposes to conduct business. CCL 065A-22, Olds Park Premium Sporting Community Facilities report by Manager of Sydney Technical Services, that in accordance with the provision of Part 1 of Chapter 4 of the Local Government Act 1993, the matter dealt with in this report be considered in closed council meeting at which the press and public are excluded. In accordance with section 10A2C, it is considered the matter contains information that would, if disclosed, confer commercial advantage on a person with whom council is conducting or purposes to conduct business or proposes to conduct business, that in accordance with section 10D, it is considered that if the matter were discussed in an open council meeting, it would be on balance, be contrary to the public information as it contains information that would, if disclosed, confer commercial advantage on the person with whom the council is conducting or proposes to conduct business. Now, we do have another confidential report, and it's got to do with the general manager's with the recruitment of the general manager. Sorry, that's last. So that's the third item that's going to be considered in confidential. So moved by Councillor Smoothly, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. All those in favour say aye. Aye. I don't have that. No, wait a minute. Just a minute. I might have that. Here we go. Yes, I'll have to read this one out too. It's the recruitment of the general manager report by the mayor, me, that in accordance with the provisions of Part 1 of Chapter 4 of the Local Government Act 1993, the matters dealt with in this report be considered in closed council meeting at which the press and the public are excluded. In accordance with section 10A2A, it is considered matters dealt with personal matters concerning particular individuals other than councils, that in accordance with section 10D, it is considered that if the matter were discussed in an open council, it would on balance be contrary to the public interest as it deals with personal matters concerning particular individuals other than councillors. Well, it is councillors actually, but anyway, that can be crossed out. Now, accordingly, members of the press and public are excluded from the closed session, and access to the correspondence and reports relating to the items considered during the course of this close will be withheld. I will ask the general manager if have there been any written representation objecting to from the public.
No, there hasn't,
No.
Mr. Mayor.
A procedural motion is required to move into closed session. I've already called for a move. That was Councillor Smedley, and a second, that was Councillor Mayor. I will put that. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. So we'll turn off the webcast. So, okay, now we just I don't know. Can I just ask? I don't think we need a motion to adopt the resolutions because they've already been adopted, and we just need to bring out into the open what was resolved.
If you read that, Mr. Mayor, it's on the run sheet there.
Display any decisions of the council resolved in closed session. So could we have those displayed? So those are the. Can we move it down for the motion? Just down so I can see who moved what. We're not going to actually vote on it this time. We're just going to put who voted what. Okay. So it was a motion by Councillor Morton, Councillor Marnie.
They were against the motion.
They were. Sorry. Now let's go to the first one. Which is the first one? So we've got that. Councillor Amir and Councillor Konjowski moved that motion. The people that were for the motion, with all the councillors with the exception of Councillor Mort, Councillor Marnie and Councillor Jamison. So that's the record of what happened. Let's go to the next item. Olds Park, that was unanimous. And the next item, the recruitment of the general manager, it was a mayoral minute by myself. It was amended by, the amendment by Councillor Bolton, seconded by Councillor Mort. The whole thing was the same with the exception that Councillor Ben Wang was added. And Katras, Elmir, Konjowski, Lewis, Motley and Stratikopoulos voted against. And Councillor Andy Abraham, Councillor Borg, Councillor Cara, Councillor Jamison, Councillor Lansbury, Councillor Marnie and Councillor Mort and Councillor Simon and Wang voted for. So that's a record. And Councillor returned to the opposition. We have nothing else to discuss. So I'm just going to wish you all a very, very happy.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I move the recommendation of the closed sessions.
To move the recommendation for the closed session. Yeah.
It's on the screen.
Okay. Read aloud the resolutions from the closed session. We've done that. No,
Consideration.
Okay. That the recommendation of the closed session is fine. You've moved it. Seconded by Councillor Shakara. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. And declare it carried. There's nothing else. I declare it closed at 9:41. And I can wish all your families, yourselves, have a great Christmas, Happy New Year, and come back fighting like we've always done.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Mayor. Merry Christmas, everyone. Enjoy your time.